You're listening to The Front Porch Show. Some shows are niche shows, talking about specific topics. Others, shows about nothing. This show is the show about everything. On The Front Porch Show, we'll talk about current events, some news, a little bit of politics, along with a whole lot of life. Welcome to our Front Porch. 1-402-799-1811 is our message line number. You are with us on The Front Porch Show, www.thefrontporchshow.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the fun places that we actually try to avoid.
Are we on LinkedIn?
I'm personally on LinkedIn, but I don't really give up my information to that, so, you know, yeah.
The one thing you don't give your information
The one thing I don't give my information. Look, we got to talk about this. So unfortunately, Tombstone is not with us tonight. He was detained.
We better be clear what that means because of his past history.
He was detained at church camp. That's
worse, getting arrested at church camp.
Detained as in unable to join us.
Am I being detained?
Am I being detained? It's pretty bad when you have to ask that with your pastor. Anyways, not good, Tombstone. We got to talk about this. I can't say her name because I have multiples of her in the house. The Amazon Home Assistant.
Say it.
Alexa. Otherwise, I don't want the fans devices to go off and get triggered and then start recording. We wouldn't want that to happen. Okay, look, we got to talk about this because you have been under the assumption that Alexa is recording us all the time.
Not necessarily. Because I agree to some extent with your assessment of the article I sent you.
She's telling me right now that she doesn't record all the time.
Oh, good.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
The Alexa just talked back to you.
Yes.
And told you, don't worry, Aaron, I'm not recording your every word.
Remember, I laughed, you laughed, Alexa laughed. I shot the
toaster
Alexa.
laughed. I shot the toaster.
Yeah.
So that article, I think I saw it a couple places. The one I sent you was from The Blaze. Yeah, think what you will of The Blaze for those of you that news source that supposedly they attempt to be pretty honest with their news. Sometimes they're definitely clickbaity. I will totally concede that.
We've called them out on that before, but that's okay.
Absolutely.
Look, honestly, we're clickbaity sometimes because we want the views.
True. And so the article essentially, and I don't have it in front of me now, I sent it to you obviously the other day. Essentially, Amazon actually employs thousands of people to go through recorded Alexa conversations, and not in the way the article states it, not intentional, hey Alexa, turn on the lights, hey Alexa, tell me how to make pancakes or whatever, but other accidentally recorded conversations. And they parse through that. And really, the reason they're using these snippets of conversations is they say to improve their audio software and that. So, yeah, here it is. Amazon admits to listening in on conversations via Alexa is essentially what the article title is.
Right. So
and then it says listening on and analyzing private conversations and intimate moments through Alexa.
But see,
and
my
I guess
argument
the original
is,
report was from Bloomberg. So
my argument is it has to be triggered by the wake word. So it's not like they're just randomly listening in. It's that the wake word is triggered. So Alyssa's name is very close to the Amazon Assistant name. Therefore, it gets a little wonky sometimes for us in our house because I'll yell, "Hey, Alyssa," and it'll pick up, "Hey, Amazon Assistant," and it'll trigger off that. And so then all of a sudden she'll try to answer my questions when Alyssa's already talking.
Now, can you rename it?
Oh yeah. I can rename it. I just chose not to.
You could solve that problem.
So the irony is I chose not to rename it because the boys know the name already. And so they actually have a child-proof one in their room that shuts off at 7 p.m. and doesn't turn on until 7 a.m. and has a whole bunch of child locks on it. They can't actually call out of it. They can't do anything on it except for what we allow, which is pretty awesome. But no, so like Myron, when he gets up in the morning, he'll have her play something for him because he just absolutely loves that. And then we've got our whole house wired through it. Our lights, our TV. Like, so Alyssa can be downstairs in the house and she can tell the Amazon assistant to turn on the television upstairs to a certain channel, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Interesting. But, see, here's another thing in the actual Bloomberg article. I'm skimming through that now. There's another article early this year that said the employees of Amazon-owned Ring manually identify vehicles and people in videos captured by the company doorbell cameras in an effort to better train the software to do the work itself. Yeah. So they're doing that too.
Look, there's no doubt in my mind that they are collecting data, and I have no qualms about that. I've said it before on the show. My biggest issue is when the government's sitting there taking the data, right? And I'm honestly not so concerned when it's a private company that I've given the permission to. Now, look, optimally, I would love to have something that is self-contained inside my house.
See, that's the thing.
Not attached to a network.
All of this technology seems really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not living in the dark ages. I have a smartphone. That smartphone has Siri on it. I don't actually have Siri activated on most of my stuff, but I'm sure it's still, if you're worried about them listening through Alexa, I'm sure they can be listening through the phone even when it's not activated. You know, I'm sure that's been happening.
Right.
That's been the joke for years, right? With cell phones, they're listening. So not obviously,
which is absolutely true. They are, because so I'm hanging out with some friends of mine and we were talking about wedding bands. I don't wear a wedding band. Alyssa and I get this conversation once a year. We have this conversation of why don't you wear a wedding band? I'm like, I don't like it. It doesn't fit well. It's just annoying. And she's like, well, why don't you have a rubber one of the silicone ones? And I'm like, because that seems like it would be a lot sweatier and nastier. And then we get down to the conversation of maybe I should just get one tattooed on.
I was going to say, have you considered getting it tattooed on?
Honestly, it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later now. It's one of those things that I'm getting kind of fed up about, you know, having the yearly conversation. And so does
this yearly conversation happen at your anniversary?
No, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's normally like 6 months after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's around now.
So maybe
coming
after
up
this
real
episode.
soon. Coming up real soon. Oh yeah, it'll definitely come up after this. And actually, you know, 12 years of marriage, she's like finally tired of it, so she doesn't. And so it's actually sitting. She bought me. Yeah, I got to show you this, Jeff. I got to show you this thing. So she got me. She wanted to get me something to hold my wedding ring.
And so the listeners know, this is not how we plan to start this show.
No, it's not at all.
That is a crab.
It's a brass crab with my wedding ring inside. It is a brass crab. Yeah, she's like, I just wanted to get you something weird to put your wedding ring in.
That's really weird.
I was like, that is bizarre. Anyways, so I'm talking about silicone wedding rings, right? And all of a sudden, I get on my phone 10 minutes later, and what is it advertising?
Exactly.
Silicone wedding rings.
Exactly. It's creepy, man.
So
it's extremely creepy.
I know they're listening.
If I could have a self-contained, like you said, a system within my own house that did not connect to the outside internet at all,
right,
then that would be great. But then it defeats, for like the Ring doorbells and stuff like that, that obviously defeats the purpose of having them, because then you can't see them when you're gone.
And I mean, look, I like the ability with my lights. I can be pulling down my driveway and I can flick the switch and turn on all the lights in the house.
Yeah, but come on. We survived for years without that. Is that really?
Jeff, we survived for years without, I don't know, electricity. We survived for years without, vaccines.
But to the point where we
survived for years without,
need to turn your lights on down the road.
Yeah, man.
You know, now I get it. It's like, oh, start for the car since I live in a northern state would be great. You know, those are awesome because the car's warmed up.
Right.
I can flip a switch when I come through the door. I mean, the precious government code says you have to have a light switch at every entrance to every room.
I don't even want to talk about that one, man.
So it's not like you're not going to be able to turn the lights on when you come in the room.
And a light outside of every door. Outside of every physical exit to a house, there's supposed to be
a light.
There's supposed to be a light and an outlet.
An outlet now?
An outlet outside? Now. Absolutely, yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's new.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. No, so I mean, look, as I've said before, my thing is it's a private company. I'm more than willing to give my information to a private company if I think it's going to benefit me more. But what are the private companies going to do with it? Well, that's $1 million question.
And then the private companies are just going to roll over when the government comes in.
So here's the thing: they obviously don't care about me personally. The private businesses don't care about me, except for the fact that they've assigned me a number and they've assigned me things to be sold. Okay, advertising. True. Advertising's their business.
And we're rapidly approaching for those Minority Report where he switches eyeballs and first of all, early in the show he's walking through and like it advertises does retinal scans and advertises to you based on your ID. And then when he switches eyeballs, he's walking through some store and it's advertising him whatever the other guy liked, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're rapidly approaching that kind of nonsense where everywhere you go, it's just going to, geofence stuff and then start advertising.
It's interesting you mention stuff like that because Illinois has laws against that. Illinois doesn't allow facial recognition. And so, yes. Right. Similar.
And yet Delta Airlines, I think I saw a thing earlier this month or last month that they're starting to test in some places facial recognition for boarding so that you don't have to even have your boarding pass. Your face is your boarding pass.
I think that's kind of ridiculous because...
And supposedly that's going to speed things up.
Yeah, but like one in how many billion people may look like you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it would be...
There's going to be people who look like you out there.
Heck, I went to the doctor's office the other day. So I was at the doctor's office for a routine checkup. And they want to do some blood work too, just whatever. First time to this doctor since we moved back here recently. And so they're in there doing the blood work stuff. And she's like, all right, place your hand on this thing. And I'm like, what's this? And she's like, oh, it's
getting your aura, man.
It scans the veins in your hand, your palm, and uses that for your ID. And I'm like, do I have to use this? And she's like, no, you don't have to use. We can do something else. But she starts with just no one questions it, right?
Yeah,
she's just like, put your palm on here. And I'm like, what is this thing? What's it doing? What kind of information is it taking?
Yeah.
And I ended up using it in the end because it's like, as a doctor's office, they have a picture of the veins in my hand or whatever. Like that's whatever. It's a doctor's office, but it's just
they're making
the
sure
level
your palm lines line up.
Where they're just they're like, I'm like, what is this that you're taking? It's not fingerprints, it's not retinal scans. Now it's like the veins in your hand they're reading. It's so weird.
That's super weird, man. That's on the verge of creepy. Wow.
Yeah, it weirded me out, and she was looking at me like, "Oh, great, you're one of these people that's going to question this." You know,
I know I've told this story before when I was in Florida and I was coming through the security system and I politely declined going through the nudie scanner, and the guy that's weird. My wife's leaving. Didn't tell me nothing.
She heard you talking about she heard you talking about not getting her wedding ring.
So I decide I'm not going through the nudie scanner. I politely opt out. They send me through the metal detector, and of course they assign me the most grisly old dude to touch me. And I'm like, he's like, so why did you opt out? We have to ask these questions sometimes. And I'm like, because I don't trust them. This was back when they were using the funky one that everyone was saying could, like, give you cancer. And
I'm sure they all still can, but whatever.
Probably. And I was like, well, I just don't trust them. It seems a little weird that we all have to go through it and get scanned. And he's like, dude, I totally get you. I was in Agent Orange. And he kind of
And you're like,
he kind of trailed off, and I'm like, "Yep, man, I feel you." And no, he's like, "I feel you," and he literally was. Anyways. I
was gonna say something else about scanners or whatever, but I've just lost it. Oh, I was gonna say, honestly, you should just go through the scanner, and that's it's punishment for them.
That's true. You get to see it all in its glory.
I wanted to do at the end, I wanted to do like products liability, as in, if that camera explodes all over that guy, we'd sue the camera company and their insurance company, you see.
How did Yale out-rebound Baylor? You go up and grab the ball off the rim when it comes off, and then you grab it with two hands, and you come down with it, and that's considered a rebound. So they got more of those than we did.
T-shirt of a headhunter a guy brought me from Borneo, which was kind of nice of him. He couldn't get me a shrunken head, so I got a T-shirt.
You used to play some ball, didn't you, Jeff?
Back in the day, a little bit,
dude.
I hear somebody's trying to break my record, though.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Davis. He just the other day ended his
Of the Baltimore
Orioles. He just ended his 54 hitless at-bat streak.
Was that 0 hits from the beginning of the season?
Yes, 0 hits from
literally
zero hits since September 14th of last season.
Not counting spring training, I assume.
We're
talking actual games.
I believe actual games. So I don't even know if he hit any during spring training.
He had to have.
Oh man, I don't know. Is it that much easier in spring training? I mean,
well, I'm just saying.
I would think so.
I can't imagine you go through the entire spring training games and everything.
Well, we got to find out, right? I mean, Chris Davis.
I'm scanning the article that you sent me here.
Spring training stats of 19. We have. Why aren't they giving spring training stats? Why wouldn't they give spring training stats? Wouldn't they?
Because no one really cares, probably.
I mean, maybe he didn't play at all during spring training.
Oh,
there
man.
we go. Wow.
So yeah, 0 for 54. Now, good news. He broke that.
Nah, boss, I got it. He had 7 hits during spring training.
See, so they're counting regular season games.
Yeah, so it's regular season. But he had 37 at bats, average of .189 though, which isn't great, but it's not good.
Spring training.
Yeah,
no, it's not good at all.
That's like
so he 54 hitless at bats back to September 14th of last season.
Yeah, man.
So then in this game, this is why you got to look at their overall stats, not in one game. In the game that he finally broke this, he led all the batters on his team. He went 3 for 5 with 2 doubles, 4 RBIs. So, I mean, you look at this guy goes 3 for 5, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs in a game. What does that bring his season average to? 0.79.
He's got a lot to work on.
7.9. He has a 7.9% batting average. And
in a sport where literally 3 out of 10 gets you into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, yeah, 33%'s a decent, obviously 500, 600 is what you want your guys hitting, but But
yeah, but most are averaging
300's average, right?
Most averaging upper 200s, 300s, right? I mean, that's the average.
I don't know what the league average is, to be honest, but yeah, you're expected to hit less than 50% of the time.
So what
right?
what makes this particularly harsh is that in 2015, Davis signed a $92 million guaranteed contract with them.
No. He signed an extension. They still owe him $92 million in guaranteed
Wait, what?
money. That's what it says. It's been a tough couple of years for Davis and the O's. The team still owe him around $92 million in guaranteed money due to the contract extension he signed in the offseason of 2015.
So what was that original?
I don't know.
What was that original
paid
contract?
Out because they're going to pay that money out through 2037.
Yeah, so it says they still owe him $92 million. So it must have been $100 million or something.
That bummer. His $92 million is going to be stretched out till 2037. Man.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of like security. Who was that kid?
Just think if you could get paid $20 million over the next 17, 18 years to hit 7.9%.
Yeah, so it was Mike Trout. Mike Trout of the Los Angeles Angels just signed a $426 million contract.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And then who was that a couple months ago? Oh, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper signed a 13-year, $330 million contract.
It's a lot of money. A lot of money to be made.
Machado, he 10-year, $300 million with the San Diego Padres.
And right now, I'm reading a book about Detroit in the just end of Depression era Detroit's 30s. The Tigers, when they had been so terrible, and then they went to the World Series, and then the next year they won the World Series. I'm reading about that. I mean, those guys went and worked jobs in the off season and stuff to make money. You know,
right, exactly. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
That's a rough batting average. And here's the thing: the team, they're probably trying to unload him because look. Last year, his average last year was 168.
How do you unload a guy though who you just guaranteed like that much?
You can't. I don't know.
No, you got to bench him and be like, okay, we screwed up big on this one.
So his batting average last year was the worst for any qualified hitter in Major League Baseball history since the league adopted the 162 game schedule.
Right? Isn't that a big issue though? Like when you're signing these guys on for guaranteed out, you know, this is only 4 years after, right? 4 years after. I mean, is he going to come back?
You're taking a gamble when you're doing that.
That's my question: is he going to come back? He's already been playing for years.
It's honestly it's a mental game at this point. I think he's got to get over the mental hump.
He's been playing since 2008. So it's like, I mean, good grief. He's 32 years old, 33 years old. So
my guess is he's going to throw some of that $92 million into a hitting coach and see where it goes from there.
You think he didn't do that over the break?
I don't know, man. Although, would you if you got $92 million guaranteed?
So I heard at number 49, like the stadium stood up and clapped for him. After hitting he hit an out, and it was like they stood up and just cheered
because they're like, fine, just go for it.
I guess he kind of just flipped the bat and was like, "What the heck, man?
Whoa.
What the heck?"
Now I guess he has to keep the baseball when he finally broke the hitless streak, and everyone cheered for him there. So
baseball is going to be worth a lot of money. You know that. That's an eBay sale right there, man.
I don't know, man. That's crazy.
Guy with the longest hitless streak.
Now, do you follow any baseball? Do you have a team, or
I follow Red Sox.
You are not
I'm a Red Sox fan.
Much of a sports guy.
Well, other than football, baseball would be second on my list. I like playing baseball more than watching it because I can't watch. The problem with baseball is there's so many games per year.
Well, yeah, so that's why you can't watch all of them.
You can't watch all of them, but I don't even get any channels with my baseball teams on them. So it's living
out there, you're not going to get the Red Sox.
Whatever. So
you just got to get MLB at bat.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend an extra, $30 a month for that. Not worth
it's
it,
like
man.
100. It's like 100 some bucks for the season.
Is it?
$150 for the season?
But see, that's my problem is I don't watch enough of it to care.
Yeah,
you know?
understand.
But I follow them. I got them they pop up on my phone. I'm of course first baseman on the Red Sox in my PlayStation The Show.
What year? Like 2012? The show? Like
it was. It's 2016. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're more updated than me.
I got a .750 batting average. Yeah, and I'm hitting home runs every game.
and what cheat codes did you put in?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none.
Sure.
No, that's a fun game. Jeff, did you hear Shaquille O'Neal is now looking for fat models?
So you're telling me we may have a future?
We may. It came as a shock to me when I heard Shaq doing this ad for JCPenney that he's going to do extra large apparel. It's
big and tall, right? They've always had big and tall,
but it's extra big and tall, and now they're looking for models to model this stuff. I think I'm going to sign up.
Now here's the problem: do you really meet the tall part of that?
I meet the large part, maybe not the tall part. If I stand on my tippy toes, yes.
The question is, does it have to be big and tall together, or is it just big
or tall
and tall?
But see, it's big and tall. I don't know. Let's listen to Shaq in his own words here.
Hi, I'm Shaquille O'Neal. Last year, I partnered with JCPenney to become their big and tall style ambassador. So you know what I did? I contacted Wilhelmina. I know you heard of Wilhelmina. They got all the models. But big guys can be models, too. If you want to be in an upcoming campaign with me, wearing these, need you to enter your sexy self right now. And remember, big guys only. Little guys, stay out. Hi, I'm Shaquille O'Neal.
I'm going to enter my sexy self.
Little guys need not apply. Would that be body shaming the little people? I don't know.
I honestly don't think Shaquille O'Neal cares.
Also, he's sounding rough. He doesn't even sound like the Icy Hot commercials there.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, this video you show, he looks a little rough too. I don't know.
He's not young anymore, man.
No, I know. Isn't that crazy? Like he's old star.
He was kind of like the big deal. When was he? When did he? His shoe size is 23. Shaquille O'Neal 7 foot.
It's more than double my shoe size.
Dude, you got tiny feet.
I'm a 10 and a half.
Oh man, I'm like a 12 or 13.
Like the average.
Depends on the size. Well,
yeah. Have you noticed? I feel like shoes are getting bigger. Someone actually told me they had a theory that the shoes were getting bigger because people didn't want to admit the size of their feet or something, which I thought was dumb. But I feel like shoes are getting bigger because there was a time where I would sometimes have to wear 11s, and now I'm almost down to 10s. But that's just a random observation.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I was wearing 13s in high school, and then I started wearing 12s.
Yeah,
and so I think you're right.
I feel like the shoe sizes are slowly creeping bigger or something.
I can't help but wonder, though, if the size of the shoes, like, if it's not getting wider. Like
wider, but longer, too.
Wider, yeah, but maybe. I mean, my biggest issue is wideness, and so I was cramming my wide foot into a 13, and I think that was causing issues.
Versus getting a 12 wide.
Versus 12 wide. And I actually need they call it a 3E. It's like super wide
measurements.
Yeah, it's super wide. But yeah, Shaquille O'Neal is 47 years old. 47 years old.
So he's not really that old then.
He's honestly not that old. I mean, only 15 years older than me. Like 20 years older than you.
Wait a second. How old is he?
47.
Where's it? Oh yeah, 17 years older than me. Yeah,
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's such a horrible feeling when you realize how old you are.
Let's just end the show now. Just cut it short for this week.
I know we got to go to bed. I mean, we got to get our beauty sleep. No, like I had this thought the other day. Like one of my best friends here in Nebraska is 27, 26, and like two of them are 20, 26, 27. Another one's like 23. And it's like, I feel so old.
See, I didn't for a while, because for a while there I worked in a collegiate environment. And so a lot of my coworkers or the people under me on my team were people just graduating college or still in college. And so, and you hung out with them for the most part. So you're hanging out with a lot of like 20-year-olds, 22, 23, 24-year-olds. And you're like, I'm still young. I'm still just out of college, And then you realize, no, I'm not. And then you leave that environment and
it's such a weird feeling.
What in the world?
It's such a weird feeling. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like, because I always thought, oh yeah, I'm super young. I remember when my dad was 32. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean,
when I remember my dad's age, like it was like 37, 38. Like that's when I first remembered my dad's age. I think I was born when my dad was, let's see, my dad was born in 55. So how old would that be in 86?
31.
Yeah, 31. So I remember when my dad hit like 38, 39.
Okay.
And I thought that was super old. Now I'm like, dude, that's 5 years away. That's 5 years.
You're an old man. Well, you could be an old, sexy man modeling for JCPenney.
I tell you, man, I'm going to send in my stats and be like, look,
I think you need to do it. And is there a vote thing or do they pick? Because I think we need to get the listeners voting for you if there's a vote.
Look, if there's a vote, I think the listeners can push us over the top. But, if it comes down to my beautiful, sexy self, I think I might be in trouble.
Yes. As a former college roommate of yours, I have to say yes.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
The essence of the American character is to explore new horizons and to tame new frontiers. We must have American dominance in space. Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the sixth branch of the armed forces.
All right, welcome back to the Front Porch Show. Got frontporchshow.com, on Facebook at My Front Porch. And so we said Tombstone, unfortunately, could not be with us this week. He is being detained in one way or another. We debated that at the beginning, but he's still
texting us,
providing his input. And so just during that last break, we received a message from him, and it's actually pretty interesting. This is going to make it in the show here. This is breaking news for us, okay?
For us. So, even though it came out January 14th.
Is that when it came out?
Yes, it did.
Got it to us? Okay.
Yes, it did.
So, but this is the first I've seen this, so I haven't seen anything.
Day late and 16 shows later.
Now, Trump there in our intro is talking about the Department of Defense creating a space force, but it seems that the Russians might be having their version of the Better Business Bureau starting a space force.
Jeff, I honestly hope our space force can take out their monstrosity that they think they're going to build.
Just as we've been sitting here lamenting targeted ads and geofencing with the ads and everything else.
But what if you could get a targeted ad from space?
From space. So there's a Russian startup company that wants to put essentially billboards in space. And this sounds insane, right? Okay. But it's a Russian startup company called Start Rocket. And it's going to launch what it calls CubeSats. And they're tiny as far as satellites go. Let's see, it's got the dimensions in here. But literally,
I'm just done
looking through this is happening. So
280 miles above Earth.
Yeah, the ads would be created by an array of tiny satellites, each equipped with a reflective sail about 30 feet in diameter. As these CubeSats orbit at an altitude of 280 miles, sunlight would reflect off the sails to form luminous logos or logos visible from the ground below. So it sounds like it's not They can't change it. So it's not something yet where they're projecting onto it, or there's, now along the highway, you've got just screens that are digital.
Right. Not yet.
Boards. No, they would have to build the logo reflective on the satellite. So the satellites would go up, get pieced together. It's interesting because the artist rendering in the picture actually has Coca-Cola up there as kind of a joke, but this tweet that Tombstone sent us actually is about Pepsi, and I don't know what's going to go on here. It sounds like this company may have overstepped its bounds about saying, it says this company is saying that its first client is going to be Pepsi, and it's going to use these space billboards to promote a campaign against stereotypes and unjustified prejudices against gamers on behalf of an energy drink called Adrenaline Rush. Now, you're going to complain about stereotyping gamers while advertising an energy drink to gamers, which is part of the stereotype, right? Like living in the basement drinking energy drinks. So
with a neck beard.
I don't know what's going on here, but can you imagine just looking up and seeing like Russian ads for stuff?
I want nothing to do with this, Jeff. This is, I hate billboards. I grew up in Vermont. No billboards were allowed. This I find absolutely offensive.
So here you go. So this is why this is just coming out, because this article at futurism.com just came out April 13th. And it is about Pepsi plans to project a giant ad in the sky using CubeSats.
I want absolutely
Pepsi
nothing.
says it'll use an artificial constellation hung in the night sky next to the stars, obviously not literally next to the stars, to promote an energy drink.
I think India needs to go and blow these things out of the sky like they did a couple weeks ago with that other satellite.
This is very interesting. Launching art projects like this with no commercial, scientific, or national security value seems unwise, University of Michigan astronomy professor Patrick Seifer
they claim it'll have security value, by the way. They claim that it'll allow governments to flash urgent notifications during emergencies.
Well, not if you had to build, at least according to the other article.
Because
how are you going to change the message on it?
Well, so it will change.
Here we go.
It'll change based on being able to retract and change the.
They can change the reflective.
Yeah.
It says it's a geo. Oh no, this is actually a little different. This is another article I found. Apparently, they're comparing it to something that was done earlier in 2018. Some guy in New Zealand launched some like disco ball satellite. It was just supposed to be a really bright satellite that went around the Earth a few times and was really bright, and you could see it, and then it burned up in the atmosphere.
Right.
So they were referencing that. That's where I was seeing but that was, they could move it around and change the pattern of it.
I mean, there's visible satellites up there that we can see now.
Yeah.
But we don't have ads. Like I've seen the space station go over. I've seen satellites going over.
It's one little speck of light, and that's just by.
Like tooling across the sky.
Yeah.
Probably the feds watching me. Because that happens.
They're probably watching you from a geostationary area. They just got one parked.
They just got one parked right at my house. They're like, what the heck is Mathis doing?
One of those ones with the rod of God or whatever, just tungsten rod with no explosive. That's
just hanging right over my house. Hanging right there. They're like, if he does something crazy, we just got to let him go. just oops, we accidentally dropped a tungsten rod on his house.
Oops. Malfunction.
SpaceX wants to add 7,500 of these CubeSats.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it gets much deeper than this. You got to pay
for this somehow.
Oh man, this is ridiculous. Look, I am absolutely opposed to any of this.
Billboards on the moon, man.
I still got to get a satellite and point it at the moon and see the landing zones, man.
Oh, a satellite? You mean a telescope?
I mean a telescope. Sorry. Wow.
I have a telescope from when I was a kid. I don't think it's going to be strong enough.
I don't think it's going to reach. You know, did I mention this on the show a couple weeks ago when we were talking about this? One of my really nerdy things that I want to do is build like a reflecting telescope. You know, one of those big ones, like 4 foot around and with a giant lens on it.
Build it, man. Then we could get the actual pictures and then prove we actually went down the moon.
I know. That would be like front porch show reporting, like live in your face reporting.
Speaking
crazy.
of live in your face reporting, Tombstone's commenting on this and basically saying the same thing we're saying right now. He's saying as if anyone needs any more media to wallow in.
Yes, it's like
with these ads.
How soon is it going to be before we get Facebook in the sky?
Although think if you're the first guy that pays to put your proposal in space.
Well, PepsiCo apparently has the book on this one because
I'm saying the first guy to do a proposal from space.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Now, look,
serious point. She can't say no to that. I went the other way.
No. You were up in the air and gave a proposal on the ground
and had the lights out spelled out on the ground.
Flaming gasoline?
Yes. No, it was Christmas lights.
Oh, okay.
Christmas
okay.
lights. Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, but I think you could have done it in flaming gasoline.
It was easier to control than flaming gasoline.
Mm. I just think it would have been cool,
So.
if you had just lit "Marry Me in the Snow" with gasoline.
It would have been cool. I was trusting a good friend of mine and my dad to run that down on the ground, though, so I could have just seen it being like, well, there was supposed to be a message on there, but it's just a giant
Now,
ball
was it
of fire,
blinking?
so.
Was it blinking and colorful?
It was not blinking. It was not blinking, but it did have, I also built a sign out of runway and taxiway signs
that
I had gotten.
Nice.
That had a K and an 8, so for her name. So.
Aww.
So yeah.
Aww.
So.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yes.
That's sweet. At least she knew it was for her.
So initially we weren't quite close enough when she saw it, and she's like, "Oh, there's somebody's proposal down there," and I'm like,
"Oh man,
a ring," So
oh man,
second,
that's hilarious.
She wasn't sure. Yeah, but it's all good.
I mean, yeah.
But I went the other way. I was in the sky. The message was down the ground. So,
but Jeff, I got to ask you this question.
Yes.
What does any of this matter if we're actually living in a computer simulation?
I thought you were going to say, what's it going to matter? Because if it's projected to take longer than 12 years to do this, the Earth's not going to be here to see it. We're all going to have burned up or drowned.
Ocasio-Cortez is going to be like, it's all done. It's all done. No, so this MIT guy, Rizwan Virk, he seems to think that the Matrix is actually reality.
Boy, that would suck.
And that we are actually all living in a Matrix.
Okay, so confession time?
Yeah, okay.
What if I told you, to steal the Neo meme?
Okay, yeah.
What if I told you that I hadn't ever watched The Matrix until just recently?
I'd say it's about time. Now, did you watch all 3 of them?
I've watched 2 of the 3. I haven't watched the final one yet.
You got to watch.
I sat down and watched 2 of them like back to back.
The first one's the best.
I haven't had time to watch the third one.
First one's the best. Second one's good. Third one gets a little weird. But if you follow it all the way through, it makes sense. It works.
Yeah,
it works. Weird, but it's good.
No, it's definitely weird, but that's what I'm saying. It would suck if we really were in the Matrix.
So yeah, he seems to think that we are in a simulated world, and that we are, just kind of existing in this virtual reality.
Well, kind of, right? It's fallen. It's no longer the original world it was supposed to be. Right?
So here's the irony of it, okay, Jeff? I have thought this through before, and I actually don't think they are too far from the truth.
Oh no.
Okay?
Not
from and I'm talking from a theological standpoint.
Okay.
Because look, we're both believers. we're both believers. We believe we believe in a deity. We believe in God. We believe in a fallen creation. Mm-hmm. We believe that we've been placed here on earth for a reason.
And that there'll eventually be a new heaven and a new earth.
Right, exactly. And so, in a sense, I can understand the thought based upon that this is somewhat of a, massive multiplayer role-playing game, right? In a sense.
That's not how it works, but I see what you're saying.
But think about it from that standpoint. I can understand how maybe from a theoretical physics standpoint, that as you're looking at the math to all this, and you come
There's
down to the
math to this?
conclusion that there's math to this, man. That because it has to do with dimensions. So when you math it out, it shows that there should be theoretically 11 dimensions. And we live in 4 dimensions, right? Up, down, right, left, and also time. That's 4 dimensions.
Okay, so 4D, yeah.
Right, 4D. And so
4D chess. Trump lives in
lives
4
in
dimensions.
4D. Yeah,
4D
right.
chess.
That's right. That's
that.
right. And so the math actually works better with 11 dimensions. Which once we add the spiritual realm, that's 5.
Where
and
do you
then
read this stuff.
Dude, it's theoretical physics, man. Anyways, I don't want to get you all bogged down in this stuff.
You have time to read theoretical physics.
I dabble. You're like, how the heck do you dabble with 11 dimensions?
Yeah, seriously.
So
I'm starting to understand your insanity.
I guess my point behind it is when you do at the math and you actually look at it from our standpoint, from the spiritual realm and God and spiritual forces, it doesn't make less sense. It kind of makes it. He's got a point. We are in quote unquote a simulation, if you will. But little weird.
Stretching it, but
yeah,
but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, a little weird.
Thankfully, we are not just in a giant vat being harvested for our electrical impulses by machines.
Right. I mean,
at least I don't think we are.
That's something positive in this story, right? So the question is, are we in a simulation? Let us know on the Facebook page. Love to hear your thoughts on this topic, because it's a weird one. Do we live within the Matrix?
Well, some of us do.
Unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs.
She got them realtor eyes.
We're gonna flip this seat red in November.
I can always tell by realtor eyes. She got them.
I think she's living in banana land.
I am not the expert on geopolitics.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
How are you the boss for coming up with a plan that doesn't work?
Is it okay to still have children?
I personally believe some people out there in our nation don't have that, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and
Jeff, did you hear
that last? Was that a Miss America contestant or something?
That is Miss South Carolina.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Tombstone man, we're gonna mock you incessantly in your absence.
Did you hear that Trump just unveiled his NCAA bracket and he nailed every prediction?
Well, he only picks the best team.
That's right. It was a huge victory. Absolutely huge. It was amazing.
Victory.
It was amazing.
But
nailed
he
it.
Didn't pick the Syracuse Orangemen to win?
No, of course he had a perfect bracket. He had an absolutely perfect bracket.
I just thought maybe he'd go with the Orangemen being their mascot.
Thank you, Babylon B, for that little nugget.
Oh man! and just in case Facebook hasn't told you, that is a satire site.
Yes, better. Babylon B is a satire site. There we go. Yes, that is absolutely true. For some reason, I was going to say something else, and my brain
you're extremely distracted.
Mentally went out on me. And of course, by brain mentally going out on me, I mean it flopped. Jeff,
back, you are getting old. It's not your back going out. It's your.
It's been a rough couple days. We'll talk about that next segment. But this segment, I want to talk about Andrea Ocasio-Cortez. She strikes again. Again. So we had did you see the video about a week ago where she filmed herself from the floor?
So I didn't watch it because I was way too busy with life to mess around with that nonsense, and I also don't. I try to spend only a little bit amount of time on social media.
I don't know why you do that.
But she apparently just like poured a glass of wine and built an IKEA table or something.
Right. It was just weird that she had the phone down on the floor.
Did she successfully build the IKEA table?
I don't have a clue. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Because if she did, she's honestly smarter than a lot of people are giving her credit for, because I've tried to build some of that nonsense before, and they use no words in the instruction, and they have this like amorphous blob representing a human, I think, that's building it in the pictures. And it's, my brother-in-law can attest to this. We were building some stuff when they were getting their house ready for their babies. My mother, we were like, we keep going, I think this is the next step. My mother-in-law would holler over, make sure you follow the instructions. And we're like, no, we are looking straight at the instructions and we still think this is the next step. We don't know. So
a lot of people came out and slammed her for the video because they claim that she was like looking down at people and so she kept squatting before the camera and being like pointing her finger at the camera and
it was
yelling.
It was very awkwardly filmed. I saw minor clips of it and it's just weird.
As a video director on the weekends, it was horribly awkward for me to watch. Like I couldn't watch it more than 30 seconds. And I was like, it's bad.
Even more awkward than what I don't understand is the trend of people. Apparently, if you have something really important to say or want to look really smart, you film it sitting in your car somewhere.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I can't stand that.
Like that. I guess the idea behind that gimmick is that this is urgent. I just thought of this and it's off the cuff and I got to get it out right now while I'm sitting in my car. And I'm like, no, you practiced this and then went and sat in your car and filmed it.
Right. Exactly.
It's annoying.
Exactly.
Doesn't make sense to me.
So she Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I'm sitting in my car recording the show.
No. Although a lot of people do shows from their car. They claim it. They claim the seats in the car are good for the sound and don't allow the sound to bounce around. But I don't necessarily believe that because there's glass.
You haven't ridden in my car, clearly. No.
Well, most cars that I've ever ridden in sound like an echo chamber. So.
Yeah.
Right. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez strikes again as she spoke at Al Sharpton's National Action Network convention. I want to play some of this for you. Let's see if she. Just take a listen to the accent. I think it'll be enlightening.
This is what organizing looks like. Right. This is what building power looks like. This is what changing the country looks like. It's when we choose to show up and occupy the room and talk about the things that matter most, talking about our future. You know, Reverend, you bring up a funny anecdote, and I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working retail, folding clothes for other people to buy. There is nothing wrong with preparing the food that your neighbors will eat. There is nothing wrong with driving the buses that take your family to work. There is nothing wrong with being a working person in the United States of America.
Now that, if you have listened to her speak for any amount of time, you know that is not her accent.
Well, so the other thing is, those claims, who is she arguing against? You want to talk about setting up straw men to knock them down. Who said there was anything wrong with folding clothes at a store? Who said there was anything wrong with being a bartender unless you're religiously against that? Who said there's anything wrong with serving food at a restaurant? Like, I guess I don't. It's typical class warfare language as well. That's not what we're focused on here, but that always strikes me when I hear that as well.
Right. No, absolutely. Do you remember when Hillary Clinton put on the fake accent?
I in no ways feel tired or whatever you have it there? Do you have it?
I'm looking for it here. Was this?
Because it's something to that effect of I'm in no ways tired.
So
it was rough.
This is actually Selma, Alabama.
The campaign took a trip down south.
Fox
Apparently,
News.
So did her accent. Listen to this.
I don't feel no ways tired.
I nailed it.
Too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy.
it's that same cadence that AOC had.
Yes.
And the chair of all the mayors
So-
in the country, Mayor Palmer from Trenton,
I
New
just-
Jersey.
Now, so people are basically saying that she's actually racist because when she goes in front of a largely black audience, that now she's putting on this accent.
Okay, so
that's essentially the matter of fact. Some people, I guess, the counter articles are saying it wasn't verbal blackface. So I guess someone called it verbal blackface. I didn't
probably
see that,
not.
but-
If it's the way that the media goes, probably not. No one probably actually called it that. The Atlantic probably just jumped on that and was like, well, they're going to say it's verbal
that's
blackface.
true.
Look, I don't have a problem that she put on an accent or whatever. I don't care. I honestly don't care. When I go back to Vermont, I put on a New England accent. It's just natural. I just do it because that's where I'm from. And so I'm wondering if it's the same thing with Andrea Ocasio-Cortez. She's from black communities. And that's, but whatever, who cares?
And see, I was going to actually make the same. See, and I do think this is funny, but this is also what annoys me with conservative media. And it's hard actually to find. So we talk about them actually, we get called racist all the time for whatever we do, no matter what it is. You can be the most objective. I don't want to know your race. I don't want to know your gender. I want to know your GPA. Well, you're a racist. Because if you look at their GPA, then you're going to exclude this group or whatever. And you're like, I don't care what group you're from. I want to look at your GPA or whatever the issue is, right?
Right.
You can be as objective and scientific as possible, and it means you're racist because the system is built against these minorities. That's their claim. Then they can go and do these things. I think we covered it a while back. There's some studies that have been done that actually seem to indicate that liberals intentionally dumb down their language when talking to minorities, whereas conservatives, people that identify as conservatives, seem to keep the same speech pattern. As a preliminary test, they analyzed some speeches. You know how that is. Anything can be twisted any way. But the point is really, in the end, I think the conservatives always try to jump on and say the liberals are the racists, and they go to this. Now the Hillary thing is ridiculous because we all know that that's not how she talks, and she's weird. But I was actually going to kind of come to AOC's defense here a little bit. I used to work with a guy. He was a white guy, but he was Bahamian actually by birth.
Yeah.
He's American and Bahamian. His parents lived down there. He grew up down there. And you talked with him most of the time normal. I mean, he had normal. I don't even know if he really had an accent from a certain region of the states. He talked normal English and actually pretty good English, which I probably didn't even use good English there. And but when he would get with one of his buddies, when he would get with another Bahamian that would come visit or whatever, man, you sounded just like you were down in the island.
Oh yeah.
And this guy just started right into it, and he's a white guy.
Yeah.
And so I think to some extent you're right. She's back in her element. And so at one point, in one way, she's gone through college. She's in Congress, and as harebrained as she is, she's still trying to be a little more polished when she's not on the floor with a glass of wine.
Building IKEA furniture.
Yeah. She's trying to be more polished. But now she's back in her climate, and she's playing to the crowd. And so,
absolutely.
The question becomes is when is it bad and racist, and when is it the good thing to play to the crowd? And that's what's being hashed out right now. And I don't know that it's really a winning.
So you call me racist if you'd like.
Okay, you're racist.
But so I worked on an apple orchard for 4 years.
Oh, that definitely means you're racist.
And we had immigrant workers, Jamaicans, who would come up and spend 9, 10, 12 months, or 11 months because they had to go home for a month, and they'd come up and work. And the more time I spent around them and the closer I worked with them, the more slang I would pick up and use in my own language from there. And it was just natural that your language, kind of varies a little bit to who you're spending time with.
And I think that's the other claim, though, is that, I don't know, it's natural to pander to your audience is what the conservative media is claiming, that she's just pandering, and I sound
slightly smarter on the show than I do when I'm talking to my kids. Slightly.
You know what? I'm just gonna leave that one.
I don't blame her. Whatever. Who cares?
Now, I do get the funny. I get the irony, right? Because if a conservative, and this is why I said it's this weird line of, I honestly think it's nonsense. It doesn't really need to be brought up and talked about. And her policies are terrible. She's clueless. Who cares about what accent she's using when she's talking to people?
Right.
Okay. Let's just. Who cares?
It's
but
like,
at the same time, you're right. Anyone on the right side of the aisle would be accused of either racism or cultural appropriation if they were to do the same thing. I mean, while this is going on, and it's just, well, this is how I talk, some white lady opens a Chinese food restaurant that she wants to have cleaner, healthier options, less oil, less grease, whatever. I
less
know all
MSG.
the details of what makes it. Yeah, less MSG, whatever. She's making it more healthier. And she's being called a racist because, you're going to culturally appropriate and then original Chinese food isn't good enough for you? So you got to make it clean now? And that's the response to that. But then they can go do these kind of talking things and get away with it. And that's why people on the right so quickly want to call her out. But
when did we ever
is
get
it worth it? That's my question. Is this really worth it with everything else is going on?
But when did we get to the point as a nation where it wasn't the intent of the person, it was just what they did? That was the issue. I mean, so look, her intent was not racist. As far as I know, Hillary Clinton's intent wasn't racist as far as I know. My intent when I was talking to the Jamaicans wasn't racist. My vocal and tonal qualities when I'm talking to people from New England is not racist. But yet when we judge people based on some silly arbitrary words that they use, or I shouldn't say just words that they use, but an accent that they put on, it's ridiculous.
So what you're saying then is you may actually be believing and agreeing with his Atlantic article that calls this code switching.
I wouldn't necessarily say I will go as far as agreeing with the Atlantic and saying it's code switching. I would say she's just adapting to her audience, and it just naturally.
Well, I think that's what it's done. So it's linguists call this code switching.
Maybe it is, but
basically it says it's based on a misreading of the linguistic reality of Latinos in American big cities. And they're basically saying that there's a big overlap. This article is claiming that since the 1950s, there's a big overlap between Latino and Black populations in big cities, and so there's a big overlap between Latino and Black English, and that's
from that standpoint, I would agree with that article. But I would say it goes much further than just Hispanics and Blacks. I would say it also goes to white people hanging out in Black neighborhoods, or me as whitey gets hanging out with the Jamaicans on the Orchard. Or me hanging out with other whiteys, in New England.
Correct. And intent is obviously more important is not the right words. I've got to think about what I'm saying here. Intent is a big factor in whatever is going on.
I think intent is everything, though, Jeff.
Like, for example, these people that are freaking out about some sort of coal miner costume or something where you darkened your face for the coal miner costume.
Oh, good grief.
That's blackface. That's racist.
No, it's not.
No. So when the Navy SEALs use black grease paint so that they can't be seen when they're sneaking around at night, are they now racist?
Right. When I wear paint in the duck blind to kill ducks.
Yeah. Are all hunters racist when they're trying to hide their whitey skin from animals?
Just because we weren't blessed with darker olive complexions, guys.
And trust me, you and I do not have an olive complexion.
Jeff, I'm as white gets. You see the red hair in my beard, Jeff. It's like it contrasts beautifully against the white.
You're like me. You can't
white.
Tan. You're out in the sun, no tan, and then 1 minute longer, and you're just burnt.
Oh, I'm gone. I'm absolutely gone, Jeff. It's the end of the world as I know it.
So I don't know. I know you threw this in, and it's an interesting thing that's been going on. Here's what we provide you. A different take than you're probably hearing from what you on any other place, because we're saying, why? It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
It's not that big of a deal. She's talking to her crowd. They obviously were eating it up.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not offended. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for us. I get the irony, and so I get the fact that people are wanting to call out that if someone on the right side of the aisle did this, they would probably be, absolutely destroyed.
Probably.
in the media for being racist. So I agree. We need to point out there needs to be an even standard here. But whatever. Let's focus on her horrendous policies,
right?
And her horrendous furniture making videos.
And see, that's funny.
Instead of how her accent.
Because that was the exact thought I had when I saw this video earlier in the week. My thought was exactly that. I was like, we have enough things to go after her for. And this is just such a nitpicky, funny little thing that it's just like, whatever.
Yeah, I think people are just trying to take her down as quick as they can, but
you look stupid. You just look stupid doing it.
My favorite word is the word.
We got an issue in America. Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
Back up, you creep.
And Bernie Sanders might run. Apparently, some folks really want to see a pot-smoking socialist in the White House. We could get a third Obama term after all.
Never gets old.
No, it
never gets old.
Jeff, I gotta ask. Yeah, what you have been doing a whole bunch of housekeeping stuff. What would you domestic duties?
I don't know about domestic duties. House projects for sure.
Tell me about them.
Well, as we said, we bought the house back in October, so made it through the winter. Obviously, with the spring coming on, a lot of projects.
You're finding bad things, aren't you?
No, we're not really. This is all stuff we've planned to do. A lot of it's cosmetic. No pot smoking socialists at my house, but we did have a pothole.
Okay, nice.
That needed to be filled, and so I guess
how do you fix a pothole, Jeff? I'm super curious. How do you fix a pothole? Like you filled it with concrete or cold patch?
Yeah, just cold patch. It's for now. The trouble is it's at the end of the driveway, so it's an asphalt driveway, an asphalt road. And right at the end of the driveway, there's obviously been a hole, been working its way out, and it obviously was getting bigger. Before we moved the house, and so I wanted to get it cleaned up this spring before the driveway just completely disintegrated.
Right.
So it's been on the list to do. We finally got a day with good weather. Although all this stuff says you can apply it in any weather, wet, dry, doesn't matter. I still wanted the best possible outcome, so I wanted to seal decently. Now, this is, it's just cold patch. You don't put a sealant over it. Right? It's basically tar and chips of asphalt, or in this case, it's actually it really wasn't any more as far as price. This one's actually got rubber chips. It's actually
weird.
Recycled tires or something.
No kidding.
In this one, they said it made it more pliable, so I thought maybe it'd be less likely to break up.
Well, unless you come pulling in with your semi truck.
Well, I don't have a semi truck.
Because we know you're a truck driver.
Maybe.
Okay.
No. So thankfully, no heavy vehicles right now to be. It is right where you turn your wheels as you're turning into the driveway. So I'm assuming that's actually how the hole developed in the first place, and there just wasn't cared for.
Did you dig it out first before you did it, or
I cleaned it out, swept it out? I probably didn't even think to use the blower on it. To be honest, I was just ready to get this done. When I started on it. But swept it out really good, cleaned all the big chunks out of it, and got it all cleaned out, as much dirt and gravel as possible. And I figured the bag of cold patch said it does like a 5x5 square, 1 inch thick.
Right.
5 foot by 5 foot.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's probably a little bigger than that, but I figured I'll just buy one bag, throw it in there, see how it does. And if I do need to get a little more, I'll get a little more. But I honestly believed initially that one bag would cover it. Well, by the time I got everything cleaned out of the hole and everything, it was a lot deeper than 1 inch.
How many bags did you end up using?
One bag didn't even touch it.
Oh, man.
It
We're
just
talking like a
started.
40-pound bag.
50-pound bag of cold patch asphalt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, looking at it, I'm kind of estimating, now that I see the one bag in the hole.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. So I go back and I'm like, I was thinking 2, but I was like, I'll get 3 more. And if I got extra, no big deal, because it breaks down over time. I mean, if you got to open a bag, the stuff doesn't stay good that long. Maybe I can throw it in a bucket.
Right. Yeah.
I really probably should have got the big bucket of it.
Oh,
in
no.
hindsight. So I go get 3 more bags.
So you're up to 4 now.
So I'm up to 4. I come back. I put those 3 bags in, and I'm still not done.
No way.
So I go back to Menards for a 3rd time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get 3 more bags.
Oh,
and at this point, I was pretty sure that the 3 was overkill. And so I put 2 in, and it was filled, but there was some low spots. So I actually ended up using the 3rd one.
Right.
And just trying to get it in there. So it took me
it'll probably pack down, right?
7 50-pound bags of asphalt.
350 pounds of cold patch.
350 pounds of cold patch. And I didn't have a tamper to tamp it down, but I was smacking it down with the shovel, and I was planning to drive over it with the car multiple times. The neighbor came over. We live in a great neighborhood where neighbors come and introduce themselves, and they're all friendly. So it's been good. It's a what you think of a good American neighborhood. And it's not, everyone's got huge lots. So there's not, I mean, I have maybe like 4 or 5 neighbors.
Right.
So the neighbor next door, he's really friendly. We talked to him a lot. He had a tamper, so he brought it out. I used that. And then I just laid some plywood over it and ran it over with the car.
Oh, yeah.
A bazillion times. So
nice, man.
It seems to be holding up so far. I don't know why that's really interesting for the show. But yes, no, like I said, no pot smoking socialist, but pothole is filled.
Right.
And other projects.
But you did a laundry room project too?
Did a laundry room remodel. It was unfinished. It was a laundry room, mudroom in the house, and the ceiling was unfinished when we moved in. And so there was some electrical we did in the wall. We tore one wall out and refinished and moved some electrical and finished with pallet wood, kind of that rustic. We just tore apart pallets. And my father-in-law does this actually for people. He was a mailman for his career, but his father did a lot of construction stuff.
Gotcha.
And so he kind of does this on the side for people. So he helped. That's always great, having someone that can help not far away. But he did a lot of it himself, and I helped when I was around because I'm on the road.
Yeah.
And so we got that finished up this week, and now it's going to be more yard work stuff. I think next coming up.
Fun. Yeah. So my big projects this week, we're getting the shop done, trying to get the shop done, which hasn't gotten done yet. We're still trying to get the basement all set up and
how many years
organized.
have you been working on this house now?
Building it 3 years, but I mean, at least we've been living in it for the last year. And so I've got to get all the little stuff done. So this week I got some shelves up in the shop. I got some, I made a paper towel holder.
Now that is some impressive skill.
I did. I made a paper towel holder.
I don't know if that even can compare with the sofa table that I made.
Yeah.
So
I made.
Does it work?
It does. It does.
Is it OSHA approved?
Probably not. What else did I do this? Oh, so my big project this weekend, Jeff, was ripping the fan out of the car, which blew up on Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday. I texted you guys and was like, it's all over, guys.
What amazes me is that your cooling fan blew on Wednesday and you limped your car through the weekend instead of just paying somebody to fix it.
Yeah. So I drove it on that. That was the other issue. So I'm sitting at the stoplight and all of a sudden I look down and I see my gauge starting to go up and bottoming out.
Not your fuel gauge.
No, my temperature gauge.
But your temperature gauge, yes.
Temperature gauge. And so I pull the corner and I pull over and park because it's super fluctuating and I think the car is going to overheat and blow up and I'm going to be in trouble. And
not literally blow up. You're not that.
As in blow the engine.
Yes.
And I don't need a second vehicle with a blown engine right now. So So I'm like, I'm kind of stressed out. I open up the hood and I look in there and I see that the main fan to the engine, like I've got 2 fans in there. The main fan has 2 blades left on it out of the 6.
What did you hit?
I didn't hit anything, Jeff. I didn't hit anything. So
catastrophic disassembly.
Yes, catastrophic disassembly due to an overspeed situation. And that was because back during the winter, if you recall back probably 8 episodes ago, I told you the story about kind of drifting over some snow drifts.
Okay.
And I ended up ripping the wires to the what would you it's an ambient air temperature sensor.
Okay.
Which controls the fans. And so when the fans sense that the air is, proper, right? They
kick off or
kick on, whatever, depending on the outside air temperature. And so it's all based on, ridiculous algorithms and calculations. And so I had to, that was my biggest thing, was I had to replace the fan. And then I was going to climb under the car, find the leftovers of that ambient air sensor and put on a new one and kind of wire it up in a different location.
Isn't it probably just a plug-in?
Right. So I get under there and there's no plug.
Okay. You successfully ripped the whole plug off.
I successfully ripped the entire plug and apparently the entire ambient air sensor off the car.
And so was that why the fan was overspeeding?
That's why the fan was overspeeding, yes.
Okay.
That's why the fan was overspeeding and eventually blew up. And so what I ended up doing is I had to replace the fan today, which entails lifting the car up, unscrewing it all, and dropping it down the bottom dropping it down through the
whole
bottom.
engine. Did you have to drop the whole engine?
No, just the fan assembly. But like I have AC lines in the way and coolant lines in the way, and I'm like yanking this thing, and finally I get the sucker out, and I get the thing changed, shoved it back in, and then I have to take the car to town to find this plug because I didn't find out that the plug was missing until I was under there.
Nice.
So I'm in the same situation I'm in before I had to buy this
essentially destroy
fan.
the fan after putting it in.
Yes. Which it was the only option because my truck is down with head gasket issues right now.
I'm honestly surprised that you didn't just have like a couple of those like clip fans mounted under there, like wired to the battery, like just ethnically engineered together, and just like that's what I figured.
I ran that car 1,000 miles since the fan blew. 1,000 miles. A trip to the store shouldn't have been an issue, but like the problem is I had that brand new fan in there, and I was afraid the brand new fan was going to blow. Anyways, so I go to 3 auto parts stores, and that's why we ended up starting late tonight, Jeff, is that I'll go to the store. I couldn't find the clip. And then I finally do a weird Google search, and it pops up this obscure clip for another sensor. And it kind of looks the same.
So you just...
Jeff, Jeff, I show up at the store, and I'm telling the guy, this is what I need. Sell it to me. And he's like, I can't do that. It's not for your car. He's like, it's not going to work. It doesn't fit. And I'm like, but I don't care. I'm just going to make it work. And he's like, well, finally sells it to me.
Yeah.
$14 later, he finally sells to me this silly little pigtail. Now, look, worst case scenario was I was going to go home, cut the sensor, and solder the wires together. Solder the wires to the contacts.
Okay.
Okay. That was my option.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I was going to take this pigtail and see if it worked. And so I get under the car. I wire tie everything. Wire connect all the wires together. Plug in the thing backwards. That's the other funny thing. It doesn't go into the clip properly on the right way. I have to go backwards, twist it around 180 degrees,
which sometimes does affect how things work, but
it's only a temp sensor, so it's 2 wires.
Okay,
it's 2 wires, so it's just a resistor.
Yeah.
So
it should be fine.
Thermocouple resistor, and so I get all this hooked up, turn it on. It works, Jeff. It worked.
Or we're gonna find out.
No.
1,000 miles.
No, it worked.
Or so.
It worked, Jeff. So I get back under there. I pull it apart. I pull the sensor off the pigtail.
What?
And immediately when I pull the sensor off the pigtail, everything comes back on. The check engine lights come back on, and the fan starts overspeeding again.
So you knew that was the issue then.
And I knew that was the issue because as soon as I plugged it back in, everything shut back down. It was golden.
I'm still concerned about riding in vehicles with you, but it sounds like a successful repair.
I told you about my other VW, right? That I had issues with.
Hillbilly engineering all around.
So I was having an issue with that VW. It wouldn't start when it was hot. And it was because the engine had this weird thing going on where it thought that it was cold. But yet when I changed the sensor out, the temp sensor into the engine, it didn't fix anything.
So it thought it was cold and it was sending too much fuel?
Sending way too much fuel and flooding the engine every time it started.
Nice.
And so what I did is I hooked up a switch to the to that sensor. I literally climbed behind the engine, clipped the sensor wire, put in the switch that was wired through the firewall that sat next to me in my seat. And I pressed the switch every time I went to start the car. And it started up every time without fail. Every single time.
How did you sell these vehicles? Or did you just drive until they
So VW bought back that car with 280,000 miles on it. They bought it back part of the Dieselgate. It's sitting in California rusting right now.
Nice.
Of course, they probably never got it started, so I don't care.
It's probably not rusting in California.
I don't know. 280,000 miles later. And so this car, I'm already planning, once I get the truck done, I'm gonna rebuild another engine to go in the car and have it ready to roll. So
you are a glutton for punishment.
180,000 miles on this car, man. 180,000 miles.
Folks, don't hire Mathis as a mechanic. I don't recommend it, but it appears that he will make it work.
I will make it work one way or
another.
So, Jeff, you asked why didn't I just hire the shop to do it?
I know it's probably outrageously expensive.
The shop in Omaha tried to charge me $500 for the fan, for the individual fan.
That wasn't parts, labor, everything?
That was not parts, labor, and everything.
Because 1,000 miles from home or whatever I needed to drive in that, needing the fan replaced.
Yeah.
I would have probably just dropped $500 to get it all fixed if that was everything out the door.
Yeah, that wasn't everything.
If that was out the door.
And the problem would have been they would have had to buy in that little pigtail that hooked up the ambient air sensor.
They would have known how to do all that.
But they would have freaked out, and it would have taken extra time. And I don't have another vehicle for Alyssa to come down and pick me up because the head gasket's blown on the truck.
I understand that issue.
No, yes. I mean, dude, we made it work. Made it work. When we come back, we have, I was fortunate enough earlier this week to sit down with Dr. John Newton, the chief economist from the American Farm Bureau. And we're going to talk kind of about some farming situations and also the quantitative cheesing that we talked about, the 139 billion pounds of cheese that we have stockpiled and that we made quite a few jokes about a couple weeks ago. We'll be right back with that.
I hear the interview's amazing. That's a pun for those of you that know your hymn writers.
John Newton joke. All right, welcome back to the Front Porch Show. A few weeks ago, we talked about a 1.39 billion pound cheese stockpile, and we made our we made our postulations on why we had the stockpile, and we looked stuff up online, and it just didn't settle right with us. So today, I am proud to announce that we have invited Dr. John Newton from the American Farm Bureau on the show today. He's the chief economist with them. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to join.
We an article came across our desk from a listener about a 1.39 billion pound cheese stockpile. Can you explain to us why in the world we have a stockpile? What is that doing for us, and why does it even exist?
Well, we seem to get this question almost every single year from folks wondering why we have these inventory levels, wondering why they reach record highs. I think you have to understand the nature of the dairy industry. Cows need to be milked several times per day. They don't turn off. They need to be milked 365 days a year. And so not only do you need to balance the supply and demand in the fluid beverage milk market, but we often have these cheese plants and milk powder plants that stand to balance the supply and demand of the market. So with record milk production in the United States in 2018 and 2019, a lot of that product went into cheese. And one of the challenges we faced in 2018 and 19, unfortunately, we did have some headwinds in the trade market with respect to Mexico, Canada, and China. That led to some slowdown in cheese sales and a buildup in cheese stocks.
So how does that work? I mean, is the government just buying up the cheese, and is this just a stockpile, or is this actually traded commodity?
Yeah, this isn't a government stockpile or government purchasing of cheese. These are private companies that may be buying an aging cheese. A lot of U.S. consumers like to get an aged cheddar or a specialty cheese. So this reflects the cheese that's in storage, in inventory. People can buy it to sell it later. To a customer they may have either domestically or overseas. So this isn't a government stockpile. It's rather reflects what cheese companies around the country are holding in their inventory, similar to inventory of Ford trucks or GE refrigerators that may be on hand.
That certainly changes the perspective, at least from my standpoint, because the way some of these articles were written, it seemed like it was government stockpiles. So that clarifies a lot. One of the things, as I was researching this topic, one of the things that really was kind of disturbing was the fact that, our production keeps climbing, yet our consumption keeps dropping. Are we running into a situation in the country where, we're not able to trade or sell, the dairy products fast enough?
I think it's more a reflection of just changing consumer consumption patterns. The U.S. consumer today, with respect to dairy product consumption, is consuming more cheeses, more butter, more yogurt per capita than in years before. At the same time, they're consuming less fluid products. So they're drinking less milk at home. They're not eating cereal. They're grabbing breakfast on the go. So I think the changing demographics and changing consumer patterns are what's leading to increasing inventory levels for some of those more storable dairy products. But on a per capita basis, Americans can't get enough cheese, and per capita consumption continues to rise.
One of the most disturbing numbers that I saw, and I don't know if you can speak to this, I saw something like in 2016, 50 million gallons of milk went unsold.
I'm not. One of the things that we had happen, again, and we talk about balancing the supply and demand of milk. You have beverage plants that may want to shut down for some maintenance or shut down for the holidays, and so you need to find a home for some of that surplus milk. And a lot of what happens is the milk is actually not just milk, it's protein, it's milk fats that are used to make the cheeses and the butters and the yogurts. So they'll separate it out, and in some cases, yes, some of that skim product needed to find a home in some of the donation channels. So it was unsold products.
So how can we as Americans kind of help the dairy industry? I'm originally from Vermont. A state of small farms. I moved out here to Nebraska, and we're mainly beef and corn and beans, and a lot bigger farms out here. But it seems like a lot of the small dairies are just closing up. Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the things, for regular consumers out there, when you go to your grocery store, you go to your Walmart, for example, if you see a gallon of milk for $1 a gallon, cheaper than bottled water even, or gasoline. The farmer's not receiving much money at all on that. And so, it's up to the consumer to try to find products that maybe put a little bit more money in the farmer's pocket. Dairy farmers have gone through a very, very tough stretch the last 4 to 5 years economically with very, very low prices. So I think understanding the value added of getting that local product or buying that specialty cheese, knowing that ultimately goes back to the farmer is one thing people can do. And then the other thing, we're working with, the school nutrition programs to reintroduce 2% flavored milk products in the school. Kids don't want to drink skim milk. They'd rather have 2% chocolate milk or even whole milk. The flavor profile is a lot better. So we're working to try to do that through Congress, through USDA, to give kids more opportunities to consume dairy products and really reintroduce them to milk and its essential nutrients.
As production ramps up and as farmers become more efficient and the genetics get better and they end up producing more, I mean, are we going to see more farms collapse, or do you think that we're going to be able to, kind of adjust those prices to actually help out these smaller farmers? And
well, we export about 15% of the dairy products that we produce here in the United States. We have a very robust and mature domestic market, so we need to continue to find those customers overseas that want access and want U.S. produced cheeses and butters and other dairy products. So that's really important, and I think that will go a long way to helping the economic situation for U.S. dairy farmers. We've got a free market economy here in the U.S., so I think it's up to that supply and demand balance to really help those dairy farmers. But you're exactly right. We've seen 7% of the dairies went out of business in 2018, and over the last 10 years, we've lost about 35% of the dairies in the United States. So we are seeing some consolidation there, but we still have a lot of small family farms. They're expanding into other areas. They're doing on-farm tours. They're putting ice cream shops on the dairy. And I'd consider consumers to really go out and explore. In Maryland, they have what's called the Ice Cream Trail. And you can visit several local dairies in Maryland that all have ice cream shops, activities for the kids and things of that nature. I often go out there.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps coming to my mind, especially out here in Nebraska, where it's primarily corn and beans and beef. And granted, we do have some chickens, turkeys, and pigs, but everywhere you look is corn and beans, and it just seems like diversity has really escaped the market. And yeah.
I was going to say, a lot of our folks are pretty diverse, whether they're, got a cow-calf operation and run, some hay or some grains or oil seeds on the side. When you get up into parts of, Wisconsin, the Northeast, or even in the West, you do have some diversified operations that are dairying, that also are raising the forage for the animals as well. So you do have some of that diversity, but probably not like it was when my parents were farming or grandparents were farming, where they raised everything that they ate.
Right. The farming has gone through such great changes and efficiency. I think I was seeing the other day that is it only 8% of the workforce is actually in the agriculture industry anymore?
Well, if you take food and agriculture, so a lot of people assume that the ag workforce stops at the farm, but you have all the manufacturing jobs associated with food production, the food retail space, and then the grocery space as well. So when you include all the direct and indirect jobs in agriculture, we've got about 45 million people employed in food and agricultural activities.
Wow,
farming,
that's
direct farming.
More.
It is a lot more, and I think people don't think about a lot of times you talk to people and they say, where does milk come from? It comes from the grocery store. Well, there's a pretty deep supply chain from the farm to ultimately the consumer. And when you count all those jobs, a lot of people actually touch the food and ag space.
Can you speak to the seems like a lot of states are slowly embracing the hemp industry. Is that anything you can speak to?
Well, it's something that's gained enough traction that it's been addressed in the last two farm bills. The last farm bill that was signed by the president December 20th took industrial hemp off the Schedule 1 narcotics list, so it's now a commodity that will ultimately be eligible for things like crop insurance. It's still up to individual states to work with growers on a plan for industrial hemp, but it certainly is an attractive new product that a lot of folks are looking at as an option to plant, especially considering where the prices of some of the other products that we may produce are currently. So industrial hemp, a lot of folks are real excited about it. The opportunities there, the CBD oil is a big profit opportunity as well. So every farmer I talk to across the country is real excited about what industrial hemp can bring.
We've been dealing with some absolute tragic flooding out here in the Midwest. What do you predict that's going to do to the widespread cost market for beef and products and farm products?
I think that's a fantastic question. It's one that a lot of folks are real interested in right now. First and foremost, those farmers out there impacted by the floods, or the farmers in the South that were impacted by hurricanes last year, or farmers in Hawaii that had a volcano eruption, for that matter. Everybody needs some relief, and Congress is working to try to get a relief package put together to help farmers recover from these natural disasters, help them rebuild, help them clean up, help replace lost grain that they may have had if an elevator was flooded. So I think that's the first thing is we're going to rebuild, and I think Nebraska Farm Bureau and some of the other farm bureaus have a relief fund to help raise monies to help those families that have been impacted by this. And there's certain to be some disruptions along the supply chain, whether it's the inability of an ethanol plant to run, or the inability for a livestock operator to get access to feed. We need to keep those rail lines open, keep the waterways open. But we're going to rebuild, and I think that's the most important thing.
I was going to say, the supply line has been probably one of the most tragic things that got hit here in Nebraska. I was driving the other day, and I mean, there's rail lines that are just underwater that that have been supplying those ethanol plants and have been taking the ethanol away from those plants, and you just can't get there.
Right, and I think one of the places we've seen that is ethanol stocks. We were talking about cheese stocks earlier. Ethanol stocks have taken a big drop recently because we continue to use ethanol, to blend it with traditional gasoline. It helps keep gas prices lower, and you've seen those stockpiles reduce, likely as a result of some of the supply chain logistical issues with getting corn into the plants and getting ethanol to the refineries.
How big of an effect does ethanol have on the pricing of our fuel?
Well, it's a 10% ethanol blend in most cases. I think some, during the summer, and the EPA is working to get it to a 15% blend. So that does help reduce the price of gasoline to consumers by using the ethanol. I think it's cheaper than traditional oil that will be used for refining and making gasoline.
One of the things that people keep saying, and a lot of people keep shouting from the rooftops, is that ethanol isn't really a money maker, and it's not really economically worth it. Is there any credence to that?
There's a number of things that need to be considered. One, it's a lot of it. When we started this ethanol program in earnest, it was about energy independence and creating a renewable energy source. So I think you need to consider the value added there, especially with respect to having a clean and renewable energy source for some of these ethanol plants. The profitability, I mean, it's going to depend on different ethanol facilities. Some have been able to make money. We've also seen some, unfortunately, go out of business. It's just like any kind of business opportunity. takes a Herculean effort to be successful.
What is your prediction long term for the widespread farming community in the U.S.?
Well, I think the first step we need to restore normal trade relationships with some of our biggest customers and get access in the Japanese market, not to get too into the weeds, but, we're the best at what we do. We've made great strides in technological innovation on agriculture, precision planting, seed varieties, et cetera, livestock genetics. So we're exceptional in that arena. It's about getting markets so that we can compete out there, getting folks to accept biotechnology, whether it's gene editing or what we're doing with some of the crops, the wider international audience to accept that these technologies are safe. I think you check those two boxes, and we've got a really bright future ahead of us. There's expectations for 9 billion people in the world, a lot of those in sub-Saharan Africa, and I think we have a tremendous opportunity not only to help lead the agricultural research and technology efforts, but to feed the world. And I think if we can do that, we can be successful.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Dr. John Newton, from the chief economist with the American Farm Bureau. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
Free ponies for all Americans, one of the overlooked issues in America today. My Free Pony platform is, of course, a jobs creation program. It will create lots and lots of jobs once we switch over to a pony-based economy. We'll also lower our dependence on foreign oil. We'll also be able to turn all that pony poop into methane gas and wonderful compost, so we'll be able to up our soil that is being depleted by agrochemicals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, the important thing to realize is that it is a federal pony identification program where you will need your pony with you at all times.
Socialism, Jeff, it's the ultimate equalizer, is it not?
Socialism is the new black. Wait, what?
What?
Oh, we're not talking about fashion trends?
No.
Oh, okay.
Although it seems like a lot of millennials would like to put it on. Socialism, that is.
Yes. And it is definitely the great equalizer.
Bernie Sanders strikes again, Jeff. He defends his millionaire status by saying, if you write a best-selling book, you can be a millionaire too.
I mean, could this be the most capitalist we have ever seen Bernie?
It could very well be.
Now, because every single Democrat candidate on the slate, all 27 and a half of them, or however many there are at this point, 42.5.9,
right,
I think is the official number now that are running. And so they all claim some version of socialism, right? Because that's what you got to do. They're trying to see who can out-left the other one. But Bernie, I always thought was a true believer. Do you think he's a true believer? I mean, this is the guy that has honeymoon in Soviet Russia.
Yeah, as a guy who grew up in Vermont under the reign of Bernie Sanders, under the senatorial reign of Bernie Sanders, I mean, I think that's part of the appeal of Bernie Sanders is that he's honest about believing it.
And yet
he's not a politician. He doesn't pull himself off as a politician. We know, of course, he is. Due to his wife and Burlington College and literally driving that institution into the ground.
Well, he's a socialist politician,
right. Which means all rules apply except to myself. It's really honestly it's super frustrating with him because it's always a double standard. But You sent an article earlier this week. I want to pivot over to climate change because this
but like you said, he's saying that if you said people were calling him out for being a millionaire,
right.
He basically gave the most capitalist answer ever, which is if you do something, then you should receive money for the value of your work,
which is extreme capitalism,
and it's yours, and you shouldn't share it. So,
see, I think that's honestly one of my biggest issues with climate change, with the climate change agenda, is that it's steeped in socialism. It's steeped.
Absolutely.
It's steeped in you have to because you are more because you're more privileged, if you will. You have to give more.
It is. It's just the latest vehicle that those that desire that power, that absolute control, that transfer of wealth from one group to another group. It's just the latest vehicle that they see as readily accessible to bring about this transfer of wealth. And again, I would argue not just a transfer of wealth of everyone equal, but them in power, them in the ruling class, and a transfer of wealth from those they see as unworthy to those they see as worthy.
Did you happen to hear the exchange this week?
That's why I have trouble with climate change.
Did you happen to hear the exchange this week between Massie and John Kerry? John Kerry has come out as the next arbiter of truth when it comes to climate change. Very similar to Al Gore. Who has come out as quite the proponent against climate change.
Could John Kerry be this generation's Al Gore? That's an interesting.
I hope not.
That's an interesting.
Let's get back to the science of it.
But it's not science. You're not quoting science.
Well, you're the science expert. You got the political science degree.
Which political science degree is not a science degree?
Let me ask you this. What's the consensus on parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere?
About 406 today.
Okay, 406. Are you aware
350 being the level that scientists have said is danger.
Okay, are you aware 350 is dangerous? Wow. Are you aware that since mammals have walked the planet, the average has been over 1,000 parts per million?
Yeah, but we weren't walking the planet. Let me just share with you that we now know that definitively at no point during the past 800,000 years has atmospheric CO2 been as high as it is today. I was in the South Pole, I wasn't at the South Pole, when I was in McMurdo, we couldn't get to the South Pole because of the weather, but I was given a vial of air which said on it, cleanest air in the world. It was 401.6 parts per million. That is 50 parts per million, already over what scientists say.
The reason you chose 800,000 years ago is because for 200 million years before that, it was greater than it is today. And I'm going to submit for the record.
Yeah, but there weren't human beings. I mean, there was a different world, folks. We didn't have 7 billion people.
So how did it get to 2,000 parts per million if we humans weren't here?
Because there were all kinds of geologic events happening on Earth which spewed up.
Did geology stop when we got on the planet?
Mr. Chairman, this is just not a serious conversation.
Your testimony is not serious. I agree. When you can't answer the question, that's the best answer you got.
I did answer.
I submit for the record.
He ends up going on to submit for it in the record. But look, Massie goes after them with their own argumentation of millions upon millions of years ago. And is like, hey guys, look, this is where it was supposedly.
I think that's there was ice ages and there wasn't ice ages, and so even if you subscribe to the belief that there were these geologic events back then,
like volcanoes erupting,
and stuff, whatever that caused this pollution in the atmosphere back then, and that's why the CO2 was there. Even if you think about that's what brought about the extinction of the dinosaurs and whatever. If you believe all that, then to believe that man-made climate change is so drastic compared to I personally, and again, I'm not a scientist. I've read a couple studies that have come out, some articles, but I believe it's much more likely, and from the limited time span that we've been observing, that the Earth goes through cycles in the amount of greenhouse gases emitted by geologic events, in its position relative to the sun, in sunspot activity, in all of these things that play into the temperature. And of course, I guess really temperature isn't the issue here. They're talking CO2 in the atmosphere here. So I guess you really can't bring in the sunspot activity on this one.
Right.
But to me, the solutions they offer, they say that even if we were to do all of the most drastic solutions right now, we probably still would all die in 12 years. And it's always just 12 years away. And the solutions are always more government, more money, less freedom. And so I just, you're not going to convince me when the answer is just give me all the power, and this thing that I keep saying is 10 years off won't happen.
You know, one of the things that I have said for years and years and years, and this stemmed from my work in churches, was you will live out what you believe. You will live out what you believe. If these people who believe in climate change actually legitimately believed in climate change, they wouldn't be flying planes all around the world. They wouldn't be doing that. They'd be parked at home, with their lights off. But they refuse to do that. Do you know what happens when you don't pass an emissions test?
Depending on the state you're in.
You pay a fine.
Yeah.
But you pay a fine.
Well, wasn't it Volkswagen? We just brought that up.
Well, right.
Was spoofing them.
But what did they do?
Took a huge hit.
But they paid a fine and got out of it. Point being, if they actually wanted to do something about it, it wouldn't just be a fine. They'd have to destroy everything. They'd have to stop flying. They'd have to stop living in Al Gore in his 80-room mansion.
So now
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Saying. I'll play a little devil's advocate for fun because that just seems to be my role on the show. If you're a true believer in this nonsense, but you believe that you are Isaiah, that you are, Neo from the Matrix, because we talked about that, whatever. You believe you're like the last prophet that's got to get the message out there. So if you can fly around in your jet and you can make a little, I'm using their reasoning.
Climate be damned, Jeff. We're just going for it.
Your jet and go for it. But you can reach millions of people and get them all to agree to this and shut it off. That's the logic that some of them are using that are the true believers. But many, many more of them, as you said, they're living in their 18 million square foot mansions or whatever.
When there's 150 planes parked in pristine Switzerland for a climate change convention, when they could meet via Skype.
Yep, exactly.
There's a big problem.
It's about power and money and the transfer of power and the transfer of wealth.
Which
that is what it's about.
Is ultimately confirmed by the article you sent from Forbes this week.
Yes, which is a scary. Well, not scary is not the right word. It's just it's more of the same, right? Because
shows how much of a conspiracy
this isn't the first time this has happened.
Guess we call this Climategate 2.0. It's more emails were released.
Yes, this was an article from Forbes,
basically showing the collusion that these scientists have to support global warming. Three themes in these emails. Prominent scientists central to the global warming debate are taking measures to conceal rather than disseminate underlying data and discussions. These scientists view global warming as a political cause rather than a balanced scientific inquiry. What happens with science, Jeff, when you start with a bias?
Well, it's not actual science then.
And you typically confirm your bias.
Well, they call it confirmation bias,
Confirmation bias, that's right.
That's not, but yeah.
Number 3, many of these scientists frankly admit to each other that much of the science is weak and dependent on deliberate manipulation of data and facts.
And I think that's the part that gets me is, so you start with a bias, you start with an assumption, and instead of because it's so vast and it spans so many years and the data set is so small in comparison to the number of years that they're claiming it spanned, you start with an assumption, and it's a biased assumption, first of all, and it's not just a hypothesis that can be accurately tested. And then you've got to have another assumption, an assumption to the assumption, and another assumption for that assumption, and you've got to do all of that, right, to get your whole model built. And your model is like 90% assumptions and 1% hard data, and then you extrapolate it out and like, ta-da, it proves what you thought it would prove. And it, in a very small scale, I had to do some data in a previous job, analyze some stuff, and it was all the tracking data of costs of a college course for a certain period of time. and what should the lab fees for this course be, and like that. And I had some assumptions that I thought we were coming up short with the fee we were charging, but I wasn't sure. And the data ended up proving that we were actually covering it better than I thought we were, but there needed to be an increase in the cost of the course. But it was all data driven. And again, I don't claim to be a scientist to the scale of what these scientists are researching. Trust me, I don't claim any of that.
Right.
But my point is, without even having to understand the science, the solutions, the players behind the solutions, and as this article points out from these emails, the way that any dissension is being rooted out, masked, hidden, it's all being kept secret, and you just have to trust us. Essentially, the whole you got to pass it to find out what's in it kind of thing. That, to me, is why I don't care what it is. I honestly don't care if it was something I agreed with. I'm very suspicious of that.
Right.
And when the whole purpose is to transfer wealth and power into certain people's hands.
I forget who it was. As I was saying earlier, you practice what you preach. There was someone being, I think, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there was a guy who declined the invitation. I wish I could figure out who it was. He declined the invitation because he didn't want to fly on an airplane, because if he did, he was going against his principled stand that airplanes cause some climate change. I was like, you know what? That guy actually may be believing what he's saying. I was like, that. My hat's off to him. My hat is absolutely off to that guy. I can't remember who it was. I wish I could remember, but I found that interesting. Now, it really comes back down to a power game. It's an absolute power game, and it's hypocrisy.
It's just, it's frustrating because I think a lot of people, especially conservative people, have reached a point where we don't deny that obviously emissions probably have some effect on the environment, and they definitely do locally, right? We've
without a doubt
that with smog and all stuff. Of course, also all the industrialized nations that are further along, like ours, the more modern nations, are not actually the ones contributing as significantly as the ones that are kind of still going through their industrial revolution, like India and China and some of these.
The industrial revolution is a dirty time for countries.
Yeah, you think about all the power plants and the coal and all the automotive industry and everything that was going on in the U.S. during that time, and really the emissions at that time. And some of these countries, obviously with more technology that they have available to them, but they're still going through their own industrial revolutions right now. And what is this? I know there was some stats out a while back that we've actually reduced our emissions more since pulling out of the Paris Accords than everyone else has actually increased theirs in the Paris Accords. So not only, like you said, live it if you believe in it, all these countries that are signing on to it rabidly and calling Trump out for pulling out of it are making the problem worse while continually committing to trying to make it better, but they're also sacrificing money and sovereignty and everything else.
They're also the ones getting money from the U.S., though, to do this. That was the biggest issue with the Paris Climate Accord.
Yeah.
We were paying people to fix their climate.
It's crazy. I'm skeptical because of the way data is being manipulated and hidden, and because the death date for everyone keeps getting pushed off, and because the proposed solutions seem to be extremely convenient for a certain set of people.
Ted Danson gave us 20 years. Al Gore gave us 5.
AOC gives 12.
Gives us 12. I should have been dead 3 times by now, Jeff.
You better go buy a lottery ticket.
Are you calling me old?
Lord, I want to thank you for my smoking hot wife tonight, Lisa.
That was a non-gendered person, Ken, and you just gave it a gender.
I tried this one chili and it set my mouth on fire, and I had to drink a 2-liter of Mountain Dew.
All right, leave this guy alone with his poor, constipated poops. We're going to come back, talk about politics. That's what really matters here.
Which is so ironic because we're not coming back to talk about that.
We are not, but we got to get us some Tombstone.
We do.
Got to get some.
Always
Tombstone
have to invite Tombstone onto the show, even if he's gone. Jeff. Police in Beaverton, Oregon, which is outside of Portland.
Okay.
Got called to a home. There was a home invasion. I'm gonna let the video speak for itself.
Did they hear the home invasion on the Alexa?
No, they didn't. The homeowner actually called this in, and I believe we'll get the 911 call as well.
Okay.
911, police, fire, or medical?
Police.
And what is going on?
I think there's an intruder in one of the bathrooms, but the bathroom door is locked. We see a shadow moving around, and the door is closed.
How many people inside the house?
There are 2 people inside, plus the intruder.
As I'm watching the video, there's police with AR-15s and dogs going to this house.
They knocked on the door, nobody's responding, but they hear noises coming from inside the bathroom.
They are fully armed, K-9 units,
Can we start a dog this way?
detectives.
We're hearing some sort of noises in the back of the house.
Last chance. Beaverton police searching the building with the K-9. Come out now or you're going to get bit.
They believe someone's inside the bathroom. The bathroom door is locked, and they can see a shadow under the door.
We're entering right now.
They are outside the bathroom door right now.
They're all inside now.
They're about to go in. That bedroom is absolutely a mess. The door is not locked to the bathroom.
We can clear the signal too. It is a robot vacuum cleaner.
Rise of the machines.
As they clear the house and they're inspecting the bathroom, guns drawn, and there's a Roomba sitting there in the bathroom.
Did they use flashbangs?
That would be incredible. That would be absolutely incredible.
Now a couple things that want clarified. The article you sent me says that the initial calls came from someone reporting that a stranger was in her bathroom. She said she could see shadows moving under the door.
Jeff,
is it the audio quality? It did not sound like it sounded like a man's voice in the 911 recording.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you. But Jeff, we don't assign gender on the Front Porch Show.
Now, see how perfect, because Tombstone. I should have been listening to Tombstone's reminder in the opening clip, and here I failed already. Well, avoiding that pothole. Continuing to talk about potholes and potheads. The other thing is, this lady comes home. She hears a noise in her bathroom. Does she not know she has a Roomba? Does she not know what room she left it in last? And what kind of noises was it making that the first thing you do is call the police?
I think the bigger concern is that the Roomba got in the bathroom alone and shut the door. I mean, come on, man.
That's what I'm saying. Obviously, she didn't just leave it in there with the door shut because she would have remembered that. Now, I could see this happening, right? The thing kind of goes around until it bumps into walls, whatever, and goes around it. So you leave your bathroom door open. The Roomba's doing its thing going around the house. It gets into the bathroom. It takes a turn. It goes across the bathroom this way. It comes back, and it happens to be behind the door, and it essentially pushes the door shut on itself. I don't know how strong they are. Could it get behind the door and push the door shut, or would it say, "Oh, I bumped into something," and stop?
That's a good question. I don't know. I assume if it's at the right angle, it could, right?
Because that's the only logical to her not knowing it was in a closed bathroom.
Right.
Is that it moved and bumped the door shut and then got itself stuck in there, and then it's just going back and forth, banging into the walls.
Right.
But I don't know.
I don't know. It's a little crazy.
If I knew I had a Roomba in my house, if I'm hearing some weird movement from my bathroom and I look around and don't see my Roomba anywhere, I guess this was the advantage, at least before I lost all my firearms in it.
I was going to say, yes, same.
Is that I could essentially have just swept the bathroom myself and save the taxpayers a lot of money because
good training exercise,
I didn't
right?
need to call the police for my Roomba in my bathroom. Or could it be was a genius home invader who heard the people returning home, grabbed the Roomba, entered the bathroom, escaped out the back in the intervening time, but left the Roomba to cover his tracks, literally and figuratively.
Now, that would imply a thoughtful criminal.
They exist sometimes.
I don't know if home invading ones do.
Good point.
Especially that house. I mean, maybe an art thief, but I don't know. Let's head to Wisconsin, Jeff.
Were some people thinking there? There's some thoughtful people in Wisconsin.
No, this entire final segment is people not thinking, Jeff. Wednesday night, there was, at a Wisconsin Walmart, a karate performing mother, her naked son, and their belligerent dog.
What was the name of the
shoplifting
show?
and running amok. Apparently that woman, Lisa Smith, 46 years old, and her dog Bo shoplifted items in the store. But the 26-year-old son, Benny Van, was causing chaos as well.
He definitely wasn't shoplifting because he wasn't hiding anything anymore.
No, he wasn't hiding nothing. Apparently the woman trying to fend off officers started using karate.
Actual karate? Like skilled?
I don't know, but the dog tried to flee the scene with a Jiffy box of cornbread in his mouth.
What type of dog was it?
Smith was then arrested. I don't know. I'd love to know. Smith was then arrested. She tried to kick out the window of the police car. The son was inside, still fully naked and exposing himself to other customers in the store. He then tried to cover himself with new clothes from the store without intending to pay for them. There's more shoplifting. Absolutely. He threatened to run the cops over with his scooter. Then the cops used physical force to ascertain him.
Not ascertain, but contain.
Right. The mother was charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, misdemeanor bail jumping. Son is facing charges of lewd and lascivious behavior, disorderly conduct, and retail theft. Unfortunately, the dog got away scot-free.
With the Jiffy Mix?
Apparently. The dog was not charged, although they did issue him a warning for the theft.
He got caught. He just didn't get charged.
Right.
Okay.
It's a Jussie Smollett situation here.
Yeah, I was going to say, he apparently had Jussie Smollett's lawyers or something.
That's right.
Or AG on his side there, the dog. So that's suspicious there.
That's right. Sure is. Yeah, wow. I don't know.
So, poll.
Yeah.
Bath salts or meth?
Oh, man. Go old school here and go PCP? No, because that's not crazy stuff.
No.
That's a bath salts. It's a bath salts, right?
Well, PCP.
Or just alcohol.
I think that could be insane. It might just be alcohol with these ones.
I think it's just alcohol. I mean, judging
this was
by
a Walmart, right?
Yeah, this is a Walmart.
Oh, so never mind. It's just an average day.
I'm seeing meth and alcohol in their eyes. I'm seeing it.
Meth in their teeth. Probably.
No, they're not. They're not smiling in there.
Okay,
but they got the meth face. Unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So my question is next question: were they on vacation?
Well, I don't believe they were from Florida, but we have 3 Florida stories now, guys.
You knew where I was going with that,
Jeff. All of these stories here in this last segment are listener suggestions. Okay.
They're loving the Florida Man.
They love the Florida Man.
I feel like we're beating a dead horse, which is probably a Florida Man title somewhere. Florida Man beats a dead horse. But,
I bet it is.
But no, they're loving it. Give the people what they want. Bread and circuses, whatever.
Jeff just declared, give them cake. And we did.
Yes.
Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. Florida Man killed by his rare pet bird. A 75-year-old Florida man was killed by his...
Is that funny?
Killed by one of the most flightless birds in the world. I don't know, Jeff. I mean...
That didn't hit me as funny.
It's a cassowary. Apparently, it's the most dangerous flightless bird in the world.
Oh, that makes more sense because you said the most flightless bird in the world.
No, I'm
like,
sorry.
I'm like, what they
Most
do? Did they take like a
flightless bird?
Did they take like a penguin and an ostrich and drop them off a cliff and see which one fell quicker? Like, how do you know what's most flightless? But
apparently, these birds are like 6 foot tall. They're like between 120 and 160 pounds. They've got 4-inch long daggers claws on the front of their feet.
Why do you own one?
They can run 30 miles an hour and can jump up to 7 feet and can swim. You're not safe from them, Jeff. If this this cassowary has it out for you, you are screwed.
It can't fly.
They got a call around 10 a.m. from Florida man Marvin Hajos saying he had fallen and he couldn't get up.
Wait. Was it a Life Alert commercial? Wait, why? We can't be laughing about it. You're dragging me down a terrible road
I'm
here.
sorry,
I
Jeff.
do not want to laugh about this.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Jeff, if I wanted to go, it would have to be doing something crazy like that. I mean,
getting
if I could pick,
attacked by a cassowary?
If I could pick, Jeff, they received another call from someone as they were responding to the scene. That the cassowary was attacking him. He was unfortunately pronounced dead at the hospital. They've secured the exotic bird in a cage on the property. Apparently, the bird was not in the cage. So, Jeff,
I don't even know what to say to that.
I
don't know why you own the bird.
I've got nothing.
I don't know.
Now we go to another Florida man here, Jeff. This man is from Naples, Florida. There was a shirtless, drunken man sitting outside, and he was arrested after customers complained that he was sitting on a bench, shoving handfuls of pasta in his mouth rather aggressively.
Wait, I'm missing the crime.
His erratic behavior first reached the boiling point, when he threatened to beat up an employee.
Sorry, I see what you did there.
Who he asked bizarrely whether they had male or female sex organs.
In his defense,
that's not the worst question to ask nowadays.
In this day and age, that might be the most sane question to ask. So far, he's acted weird, asked weird questions, and then aggressively eaten pasta.
Yes.
Now, what do you mean by aggressively eaten pasta?
I guess just shoving it in his mouth. He began
Was it cooked?
Yes. He began muttering obscenities and then begged for change. Hope
and change?
Cops gave him paper towels to clean himself before cuffing him. He injured himself in the back of the patrol car by banging his head against the metal cage partition. Florida man.
All right.
We got to talk about this.
Okay, so same question.
Alcohol.
Meth or bath salts?
Alcohol. Clearly intoxicated. Probably had too much of the house wine at Olive Garden to begin with. And that's why he was sitting on the bench.
Was it Olive Garden pasta?
I would assume so.
The image I have in my mind, I don't know.
I assume he went in there to get his online order pasta on.
Or he was doing the all-you-could-eat soup, salad, breadsticks, or pasta bowl
But how did he end up on the bench with pasta? Because you can't walk out with the all-you-can-eat pasta bowl, can you?
That's right. You don't get. I don't think you can take leftovers from the all-you-can-eat.
No, I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure you can't do that. So
they do have the whole like buy one meal get one to go kind of for later thing.
Oh, that is interesting. You're
so
right.
Maybe he went with that option.
You're right. To add insult to injury, he was drunk at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Guys,
rough.
Afternoon drinking is not. I mean, unless his day started really early, I guess. Apparently, he started yelling at people in the store. I could beat your blank. Basically, calling out people. Yes,
I could
donkey.
beat your dead horse.
Yes,
as we were talking about beating a dead horse earlier.
Jeff, I want to roll another story here, another Florida story. This is 3 Florida women. 3 Florida women, not just Florida man individually, but 3 Florida women.
All 3 of them standing in the nude, putting on suntan lotion.
3 naked ladies are accused of leading state troopers on a wild chase. The women were first spotted in the buff at a rest stop in Pasco County. They told a trooper they had just showered and that they were air drying. Yeah. But then they jumped into a car and sped off. Troopers caught up with them. Then they got aggressive. One of them got out and came at the trooper with a baseball bat. They took off again. Troopers used stop sticks to blow out their tires. Then a taser on all 3 women. Speaking of naked.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, when you hear a story start from Florida of naked and suntan lotion, you assume it's going to start at the beach.
Yeah, no.
But, look, man, you're on a road trip. You've been in the car for hours. You got that like road trip funk going on. You need to take a shower. You realize, shoot, I didn't pack any towels. What are you going to do?
So you find a random shower and you start air drying afterwards.
Now, it's Florida. Has anyone seen the humidity down there? You're probably
not going to get dry after that shower.
Wet standing outside. But I mean, to each their own.
Right.
Now, the next question would be, as we get to the baseball bat part, does she have a higher batting average than our friend from the first segment?
Than Chris Davis there?
Yes. I'm
not sure. She'll get to find out in the Jailhouse League, that's for sure.
There you go.
Now, they didn't say this in the story, but do you think alcohol was involved?
Something
was involved. Some intoxicant was probably involved.
Bad decision making upon bad decision making, and then it turns into a car chase. That's what's crazy. And wasn't it initially a car chase, but then they backed off because it didn't really meet the requirements to sustain a high speed chase, and then they came back and they caused another. They were driving the wrong way on a road or something, and that's what triggered the chase later. I think that's what I saw in the article. Is they actually ended up getting chased by 2 different agencies that night.
My goodness!
And so they had the public nudity, the baseball bats going after police, and so eventually they got the taste of the taser.
Which I don't know if the nudity is necessarily the illegal part, because remember we had that story about the mayor there who kept getting naked, and that's not illegal.
On your own property, though,
is it just your own property, or is it anywhere?
I do remember we had an awkward Florida story.
Yeah, because so Vermont, it was legal to get naked. Nudity was legal in Vermont in public as long as you didn't disrobe yourself in public.
So if you entered public already nude.
Yes. And so there were nude swimming holes down in the southern part of the state. And
can you explain to me the logic behind it? Was there just a law against stripping, and then no one thought about that in between steps?
Well, I think it was mainly to target people who were exposing themselves,
gotcha.
just yanking it out. Yeah, creepers yanking it out. Yeah, Jeff.
Oh, man.
We're done. It's over.
You take me down the strangest paths on this show.
It's over, Jeff.
I can't even.
I'm just saying.
And people wonder why I try to protect my identity.
I know. We just keep it all out in the open, Jeff. And with that, guys, we're done. We're done. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Front Porch Show. Check us out online, www.thefrontporchshow.com. If you have any witty comments, funny remarks, or just you want to insult us at random, 1-402-799-1811. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Can I submit my resignation via that number?
Negative, Jeff. You're here for life. You're a lifer.